I can think about, and I know Juju's not playing this year, but all I can think about is seeing them play together.
Ooh,
my goodness.
I know that's right.
Welcome to We Need to Talk Now, presented by AT&T. I'm Alicia J, and I'm here with Erica L. Ayala. So happy to be with you, Erica. Man, we have a show. We got to talk about some things, okay? Number one, we're going to recap the first week of the women's college basketball season. We're in full swing with that. Love to see some of these games. They've been exciting, that's for sure. We're also going to break down the Unrivaled rosters. They were announced, and there's been some shakeups with some teams. So we're going to talk about that. And then the NWSL postseason is in full swing as well. And there are so many updates with that. I just want to say shout out to the Portland Thorns, but we'll get to it a little later on. You guys know I'm from Portland, so shout out to them. But we'll get into all that and more a little bit later on. But make sure that you subscribe. You are linked in with us on every single level. You see our socials down here. And you know what? Smash that like button, because all of that helps people find this show. And also it helps you stay connected with what we're doing right here at We Need to Talk Now, presented by AT&T. So go ahead and do all the things, because you won't want to miss the shows that we have in the women's college basketball season. And let's just start with that, Erica, because how could we not, right? It's in full swing. We've noticed some big things that are going on already in women's college basketball. And let's just start out with some fantastic freshman play. I mean, Jazzy Davidson, we just saw with USC, they upset NC State, and she scored 21 points in the win, and not to mention scored the winning bucket. You know, when you think about, she's not the only freshman that is playing. We're going to get into some more names, but let's just start off with Jazzy. What she's doing is phenomenal, and I just love to see her play, Erica.
Yeah, I think that, you know, over at CBSSports.com, Isabel Gonzalez has really been able to follow USC and focus on Jazzy and what she's learned from Juju Watkins, who we know we won't see this season. And so knowing that she has a pedigree of being in the USA basketball system, you know, an All-American, she's used to these big moments. And when I was at the Big Ten Media Day, that's what Jazzy talked about, that experience she thinks is going to help her. And it's not necessarily about trying to be Juju or take over Juju's role. Lindsay Gottlieb made that very clear that that's not a thing. Juju is one of one. So it's about how Jazzy can find her game, how this team can find its game with someone like Davidson at the point, you know, running things. And early returns so far, that's exactly what they've been doing. And I think that that's a little bit of a theme when we're going to talk about freshmen, at least some of the freshmen that I certainly want to highlight, is that it's not about necessarily for a lot of these teams getting their freshmen to be the next whoever. It's about remembering why you recruited them and giving them an opportunity to cook. And sometimes that means, you know, game-winning buckets, and maybe sometimes that won't. But either way, I think that what we're seeing is that there's such a level of talent and IQ with this freshman class that the coaching staffs around the nation are really giving them room to operate, which I love to see.
Love to see it too. And when you talk about what Jazzy has done on this team so far, and also learning from Juju Watkins is huge. It can change the trajectory of your career, not just in college basketball, but beyond, right? I mean, she obviously came in very talented. I'm not taking any of that away from her, but learning under Juju is huge. And all I can think about, and I know Juju's not playing this year, but all I can think about is seeing them play together.
Ooh,
my goodness.
I know that's right. That's right. You know,
seeing them
and
play together,
it's about staying.
Will be amazing.
Yeah, and it's about staying healthy, and it's about how do you, to use a term from the New York Liberty, Jonathan Kolb, future-proof, right? That's what college basketball is all about, right? Future-proofing the program. And I think, you know, as much as USC is trying to do that, they're not the only ones here, Alicia. There's some other teams that I definitely want to talk about as well.
No, we have to talk about OU's Aaliyah Chavez. I mean, no fear. When you talk about a player that has come in as a freshman and doesn't look a day like they are a freshman at all. Like no fear, quick decisions for sure, creating possessions, high level pace. I mean, I remember when I was a freshman, and listen, I'm not her, okay? Never was. Let's be clear. But I could hardly get up and down the court for a minute because you're so not used to that level of getting up and down the court in college. You're coming from high school. It's a huge jump. It really is. And so seeing a player, a freshman, come in and have all of these attributes look like they've been here before, that is so huge. And you can see the impact that she's had. I mean, 16 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 steals, and 1 block against Belmont. Went 1 from 8 from the arc. I mean, coach isn't concerned about that because of the rest of the stats and what we're seeing.
Yep.
And you shouldn't be, because the talent is undeniable. But what are your thoughts on what she is doing for OU so far this year?
Yeah, Jenny Baranczyk is really high on Aaliyah Chavez, one of the top recruits in the nation coming into this season. As you said, great decision making, fluid, just a fluid basketball player, seems in control, very self-aware and self-possessed at all times. And what we're also hearing from OU is that Coach Jenny wants her to be able to build chemistry with the veterans that are on this team. And that's going to be key, not just for Chavez, but for OU, who they have about half of, I think just half, maybe even more of their roster right now this season are underclassmen. So you're talking about true freshmen and sophomores. But then you also have a player like Reagan Beers, right, who you can learn from, has been, in the NCAA and been in big moments. And that's what Chavez is going to learn. But you want to, again, we were talking about this earlier, you see that OU is giving her time to cook. You see the 3-point range, and something else that we heard Coach Jenny talk about is that you have to remember that it's a little bit of a different distance. So you might be used to shooting 8 3-pointers in a game at high school level or AAU, right? Travel ball. But now you do that at NCAA, and it's a different distance. So there's a little bit of an adjustment, especially early in the season, that it's going to take. But, big matchup for OU coming up. That's going to be a huge barometer for half of that team, right? Those true underclass women, as a manner of speaking. But, what we hear is that OU wants, especially Chavez, to have that freedom on the court, because that's also how you learn. There is this belief in OU that they have depth, but the depth has not been tested in situations that they may see if they get where they want to be in the NCAA tournament. And they have a really good matchup, I think, Alicia, coming up, a test of that when it comes to what they can do against UCLA.
Well, I'm going to be at that game tonight. I'm taking my God baby. So I'm really excited to watch both of these teams in person. And it's funny when you talk about depth. One thing that I've been thinking about, especially since NIL, the transfer portal, I don't know why that's so hard to say, but since all of that has really come into play, depth is a really hard thing to obtain, right, on these teams, because people are transferring all the time. Not everybody is staying for all of their years, right, in college. There's a lot of different attributes that goes into having a team and the movement that happens on every team every year. So oftentimes, you will come with a young team like the one that we're seeing here. And oftentimes, the player that is a freshman has a bigger chance to cook, right? Because they're almost kind of even keel with the transfer players that are coming in. So depth is a tricky thing for me when we're talking about college basketball now, because you can't really maintain the once depth that you had at one point in time before all of this movement was happening. I'm not saying it's good or bad.
Yeah.
But I think that you will see that more because people are moving more. There's more movement.
It's interesting that you said that because it reminds me of a point I wanted to bring up earlier about USC, because I love a little callback, especially when maybe my prediction was right. But what I heard from USC and Lindsay Gottlieb is that she's actually designing a system to be what she considers, and Isabel wrote about this recently in their win over NC State, kind of like a pro-ready system. When I spoke to her, she used the term positionless. Now, positionless basketball is not, I wouldn't say a new trend, Alicia, but being able to execute that and think about depth in a different way. So maybe it's not, again, the years of service or those hard minutes, clutch time minutes, but it's thinking about, do you have versatility? That's its own form of depth. And what USC is trying to do, not because of the Watkins injury, but maybe more so because of how the team maybe started to realize that if everyone defensively focused on Watkins, then did they have enough versatility? That's what Gottlieb is doing. And so I'm very curious to see if it's going to pay dividends. We've talked before about, are there specific NCAA programs that help their graduates or just players that leading into perhaps a WNBA draft year or an overseas contract, are they helping develop pros differently at certain institutions and organizations? And I get the sense that USC, yes, has that in mind. But because if you have that next step in mind, as far as what it's going to take, then you can be successful in the now and really hit the trend early when it comes to the versatility aspects of depth, knowing because of everything that you just mentioned, whether it's NIL, transfer portal, injuries, redshirt years, etc., that you're always going to have a mix and match. It's quite literally the nature of NCAA sports. So I just wanted to shout out Coach Gottlieb and what her program is attempting to do, and we'll see if it pays off.
We will see. It's that new depth. It's that versatility depth right there. We'll definitely be focused on. Now, I presented a couple of freshmen that I think are doing big things. Is there one other that stands out to you the most that you'd like to touch on?
I spoke about Coach Janine, and she is Jenny, excuse me, she's from Iowa, played at University of Iowa. So I want to go back to the Hawkeyes and, a program that everybody was laser focused on during the Caitlin Clark years, really her junior and senior year. And we're kind of trying to figure out, what would this team look like? Are they a team that, again, coming out of the Big Ten is going to be able to make a big push? They made the NCAA tournament, maybe didn't get where they wanted to be. And so Layla Hayes is someone who I think we have to keep an eye on. 12 points, 3 rebounds through 2 games, a 20-point performance against Evansville. Again, there's no fear. We talk about sometimes those welcome to the W moments. We're not seeing a lot of those like welcome rookie moments yet. These are rookies that they're confident. And if there's any nerves or anything like that, they're not showing it. And so I just wanted to give a shout out also to Hayes as well.
Definitely a good shout out there. And I love to see the confidence. Come on with it. Like, come with it from the beginning. Let's go.
Yes.
And we've seen a lot of confident teams blow out a lot of other teams, Erica. It's been kind of crazy. I mean, one that stands out because everybody was talking about it was the Cal State Northridge beating Bethesda 103-13. That was hard to watch. If you watched any of it at all, it was definitely hard to watch. And there's been a lot of conversation around, like, is this good for the NCAA? Is this something that we necessarily want to see moving forward? I mean, obviously, none of these teams are in conference play, and there's a lot of matchups that I think need to happen, right? There's some monetary aspects in there, as well as for some of these teams, they need to, well, not some of them, most of them, they need to enhance as they go into conference play, just the complexity of their schedule too. When you think about postseason play as well, like there's so many aspects of it and so many reasons why we're seeing these blowouts, but that would be like the next big thing I would say with this opening week of college basketball or opening time of college basketball is that, we've been seeing a lot of blowouts. And is that good for college basketball, Erica? I mean, is it something that you want to see?
I mean, I feel like it's a little bit of a trap question. I think we can all speak across sports. No one, quote unquote, wants to see blowouts, right? Those are not the games, generally speaking, that we consider exciting. Maybe if you have a stellar performance, like a singularly stellar performance in those games, then maybe it's a different conversation. But like, do we want blowouts? I don't know. Like, is anyone saying yes? So there's
Right.
that part of it. The other part, and you alluded to it, there's so much money. I mean, you've got teams that are properly on the West Coast that are playing in a Midwest conference, like how much of these things are inevitable just because things keep changing. It's about chasing the NIL dollars. It's about chasing the broadcast deals. All of those things are outside of the control of a singular women's basketball team. And then, yes, there are these teams that maybe are mid-major or lower, right? We know that historically, when it comes to broadcasting, HBCUs have not been given a lot of shine. And why is that important? Because when it comes to ranking mid-majors, when it comes to giving, different slots in the NCAA tournament, you have to play that game even in order to get in. So there are a lot of different things that play into this. As far as are blowouts good or bad, I was thinking as you were speaking of, the Tulsa King, before he was Tulsa King, Sly Stallone, of course, cut his teeth, broke out in Rocky. And, his first nemesis and then friend, Apollo Creed, throw in the dang towel, like sometimes you get beat down in sports. Beat in, out, up, down. And there's not much you can do about it. I mean, we talked during the WNBA season about a team that lost to who we thought was going to be a title contender by 53 points. That same team that lost by 53 points is now WNBA champion.
Absolutely.
So, I don't know. We heard it during UConn. Oh, UConn winning. I think their largest margin of victory was at one point was 80 some odd points once in their tenure. Oh, it's bad for women's basketball. Okay, well, some of those beatdowns, whether they were at the time players or coaches, inspired other programs, other coaches to level up. And we don't see that really happening as much as it used to. Yes, everyone's going to get smacked down, including, again, UConn. They got beat down.
Right.
And then won a title.
Right. And I think it's part of sports, right?
Exactly.
Like this is part of sports, and we're early in the season. I didn't mean to cut you off, Erica, but we're early in the season. It's like it literally just started. Give it some time, number one. And number two, it's part of sports. That is just it.
It's the ugly part, but it's real.
Right.
We say sports is a microcosm of life. Listen, if I had a camera following me on my 13-point days, oh gosh, you know what I'm saying?
Listen, it's only Monday and you don't want to know my score.
And so I get it. It's not great. It's not. We don't have to fake the funk, right? Nobody wants this. The team that's losing certainly doesn't want it. How much can be gained from a team winning by that margin? I get all of that conversation. And unless we are going to go in a completely different direction when it comes to parity and really forcing that in certain ways, which, I mean, in the society that we live in, which is, even just thinking of our economic principles, I don't think that's really what people want. So there's a give and take here. And sometimes you just got to get beat down. I know nobody wants to hear it. You certainly don't want to go through it. But like you said, it's early. Sometimes you just you gotta go through the funk.
Yeah, you do. And it does have purpose. Like you said, you mentioned UConn they had a beat down at one point in time, and they were the champs. And a lot of people had questions about what they would look like this season after, Paige went to the W. They're like, what does this UConn team look like? And that is our third big takeaway from what we've seen so far this season, is that UConn is looking good on all fronts. And we love to see it, not only is their chemistry great? I mean, over the weekend, there was a clip that went viral between Azzi and Sarah. They're going back and forth like sisters. KK's in the middle, and she just kind of was like, stop it, y'all. And they both did. And I love to see that type of interaction on the bench. It's fun. It's fun, but also it's just showing you that they're as close as ever. That chemistry is there. Also, Azzi is looking amazing. She's really having, I mean, it's early, but we haven't been able to see Azzi this consistently healthy, and she's looking amazing, not only in her play, but also as a leader. Yeah. Love to see it. Sarah Strong in her sophomore season.
Stop it. She ain't no sophomore. Get out of here.
Well, I don't know. She been here before. She played before. We know
it's
that.
It's in her blood, literally.
Definitely. But she is, we talked about having no fear earlier. She has zero. Yeah. She has absolute zero fear, confidence off the charts, which I absolutely love to see.
Love to see it.
But it's kind of hard as a sophomore, right? Or whatever, freshman coming in to play a leadership role. And she's done that from the beginning. Yeah. So with all of these things and the depth that they have, the transfer that they have, I mean, let's talk about Kaylee Heckle from USC already making an impact. I mean, they're deep as ever. And it's just, to me, I love seeing this UConn team be who they are right now without Paige.
Yeah, no Paige Bueckers, no problem, and it's not surprising to me. I know we talked about this last year because in the spring of last year, I was able to talk to Azzi Fudd ahead of what was their championship run. And going into last season, it was like, we're not talking about this. We're not talking about the legacy. We're not talking about the injuries. We're not talking about the shoulda, coulda, wouldas of injuries or COVID or this or that. It's just lock in to UConn basketball. And again, that meant taking some lumps. South Carolina, of all teams, who they then saw in the finals, so it's not surprising to me that Azzi is locked in here. I think if I had to guess, again, just from our conversation from last year, a part of the joy that we're seeing is also that it's coming with being healthy. This is a player, unfortunately, that has had quite the whirlwind. You don't want to talk about taking lumps on the scoreboard, was also in the training room, right? Having to come back and do rehabs and recovery and this, that, and the third, finally starting to get her stride. We hope it sticks. But then also you mentioned Sarah Strong, who, I mean, it shouldn't be any surprise because Sarah Strong was definitely getting it done last year. And then in that national championship game, completely took over. So the leadership qualities are there. But that's what happens when you recruit well and you let your young players cook. Now, you still have to hold them accountable, but you have to give them a little bit of runway to find their game, to refine their game, and then find the ways that they can push and press the right leadership buttons, the facilitation buttons, even when it comes from a player like Strong, as a post player. So, I mean, UConn's looking scary. We talked about UConn has had their dynasty run. Some people have come for it, South Carolina being chief among them. But I don't know, maybe UConn's making a little push to come back. And with the folks that they have on that roster, Fudd and Strong in particular, it's no surprise.
No surprise at all. And in addition, and to give credit where credit's due, they're doing the dang thing already this year. Mm-hmm. But they also had Paige on that team for they played with Paige, a lot. And you can see kind of like the reflection of who she is as a player and her leadership that's on that team now. So not to say that it's Paige doing this, because I don't want to be that person. They have their own team, and she's not on the team now, but there's definite aspects of the player of who Paige was that is still on that UConn team.
And I think what I would say is, just as a final thought from my perspective, is that there's a part of that's UConn culture. So you have to give Gino and Chris Daly, some credit there for just, again, knowing and setting the expectation every day. But as far as the Paige legacy, for me, what that is doing things with joy and with love. UConn for so long has been Gino Auriemma notoriously getting on his stars, calling them out publicly, calling them out in practices. And that's his way, right? That's how he gets and challenges these high-level athletes. What Paige has been able to do, I think, is bring a little bit more levity, the fun, again, the love, the lightness, not just the love of the game, but also for being in that environment. And I think that's, again, what we saw in that clip that's gone around of the sisters, right? The teammates playing on the bench. And that's important too. It's often talked about, but when you really get into that pocket of being like a family or having that comfortability where you can just cut it up, but also get serious like that, that's something special.
It definitely is. We need all the joy and all the love that we can get. Okay. So spread that around.
That's it.
We need it for sure. And something else that is spreading around, Erica, is money. In some way, shape, or form, when it comes to women's basketball and professional women's basketball, there's a new league that is out here talking about how they're going to pay their players in a big, big way. So it's a new league that it was announced this week, but it had kind of been talked about before. Like I had seen some articles about it before, but they did a big announcement this week because Project B, which is a new league that is on the horizon, announced that WNBA veteran and WNPBA president Nneka Ogwumike is the first player to announce that they are going to be a part of this league. Now, the league is targeting 66 players with 6 teams of 11 women each. It's 5-on-5, so that's important to note. It does not conflict with the W season. And then players will compete in 7 two-week tournaments across Asia, Europe, and the Americas. And according to Front Office Sports, the player salaries begin at $2 million annually for a potential. Hold on. They begin at $2 million annually for a potential of multi-year contracts at more than $10 million. So in addition, players will also get an equity stake in the league. Now, Elena Beard, who we all know and love, obviously a legend in the WNBA, played at Duke. Her list of accolades go on and on.
Yeah, recent Women's Basketball Hall of Fame inductee. So shout out to her.
Shout out to her. We actually have an interview with her up on the We Need to Talk YouTube page if you want to go take a look at that. And yeah, she's talking about this league on every single level, as she should, because she's one of the co-owners. And she said, I'm not going to get into the numbers on any of this stuff, but I can say this deal surpasses anything in the market today. It's consistent with the trajectory and the explosion of what we're seeing in women's basketball. Nothing comes close to what we are offering these players. It's not to be arrogant. It's to basically position these women to receive what they absolutely deserve for the value they have created and create on a daily basis. Now, I want to get into this, Erica, but I do have to note that there has been some back and forth, that there is Saudi funding with this league. They vehemently deny that. They actually say that the league, they're using an event group that is Saudi based, but that they are not getting Saudi funding. And I just have to state that in this conversation. So, Erica, with all of this, what are your thoughts on Project B?
Listen, I think that we keep hearing certain things when it comes to these new leagues, off-season leagues, that being the WNBA off-season, because they are touch points for the group that these leagues are trying to recruit. And that's top level players. So what are we hearing consistently? We're hearing increased base salary. We're hearing equity. We're hearing or we're seeing models that have somewhat of a what we used to call barnstorming feel to it, where they can travel. So it's not teams that are based in a specific city or a state that represent that city or state, and then they travel to the other cities With teams, it's more of this is our league and we're coming to hot zones of women's basketball, or areas where there's an appetite for women's basketball. So in this league, what that looks like is not just the Americas. And so I wonder, because sometimes you say the Americas and what does that mean? Usually people think, of course, the United States, Canada. Are we throwing Mexico in there? I'd love to see it. But it's about exposure, base salary, and equity. And I think some people will say, well, this is a push to get the WNBA to do or not do certain things. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But at minimum, it's probably a wake-up call for anyone in the women's sports space, quite honestly, to be like, as someone from my home state of New York has been known to say a few times, yesterday's price is not today's price, which ain't tomorrow's price. I added that last part.
I heard it.
That was me.
I heard it, Erica. Put a period on that.
Period.
Let me extend this.
I know that's right. And so I think that's what's fascinating about this. I think there are still some things that need to be clarified, is how I'll say it, when it comes to this. And ultimately, are there trade-offs when it comes to certain models, like 3-on-3 versus 5-on-5, a 5-on-5 league that's a single site like we see with Athletes Unlimited versus a 5-on-5 league that's traveling, like Project B says it's going to travel. So there's always going to be different things collectively, individually, that players have to think about. But what we are seeing is that players want equity, they want higher base salaries, and we're seeing entities and institutions that are willing to show up and write that check. So,
yeah, I think overall, yes, there needs to be some clarification here. I agree with you 100% on that. However, I do like and absolutely love when there are more options for women to play sports and to play basketball specifically in this case.
Yes.
And when you see the same things that you just spoke about over and over again when it comes to these new leagues, right? Higher pay, equity. I just would hope that that would just make everybody understand and know that it has to be aligned, and it should be aligned moving forward. I don't care what league you are, what league is presented or established, that you're literally getting the blueprint on what these players deserve and what they should get. And so this is another example of that. I mean, the numbers are big. I like the 5-on-5 aspect, obviously. I mean, that's what we know and love, but also for it to travel is really interesting to me. The international part of it. There's a lot of layers to this that I do like. And once we get the clarification, I'm looking forward to supporting a league that is supporting its players. And that's what it is.
Yeah. I think the only thing I'll add real quick is I think also when you have these new leagues, right, these disruptive, and I mean in a business sense, right, as in disrupting the status quo or the norms that we're used to, these disruptive leagues are also creating carve-outs in this case, women's basketball, that have taken decades to see in what we consider maybe the top 5 men's traditional sports. I'm including ice hockey. I know a lot of people don't, but this is my list. I said 5. So thank you. So the NHL just today announced that they're going to have a office in Europe to show their commitment to the global game. We continue to see the NBA, right, have a global series. The NFL have global series. And they've been doing that by these one-off games in the preseason, early in the regular season, things of that nature. Now you have an entire league committing to playing throughout several continents. Again, expediting perhaps the trends that we're already seeing in sports and really fast tracking that for women's sports, and in this case, women's basketball.
Well, I'm here for a fast track. Let's get that going. And we're definitely going to talk more on this as it develops. Beard also said that many top WNBA players have also signed on, but they haven't released the names yet. So it'll be really interesting to see who else is a part of this league moving forward. So make sure you smash that like button and you are definitely keyed in every single way with us because we're going to be talking more about this league and all the leagues moving forward. Going from one basketball league to another, there were some big announcements in this league that we're going to talk about. So big that we're going to include them in our favorite segment, Erica, and that is the guarantee of the week presented by AT&T. Now, this week, Unrivaled, it is going into its second season. It had a fantastic inaugural season, but going into its second season, they announced the rosters for each team. And there was some hiccups, Eric. Not only did they add 2 teams, and you can see all of them right here. I mean, this is a lot of information to absorb. Added 2 teams, so there was an expansion, which is really fantastic. So from 6 to 8 teams, and some of the teams got to protect like a player on their team. However, there were still some things that were shaken up, and a lot of teams changed. Also, Angel Reese is not going to be playing on Unrivaled, so she's not on the Rose team. So that team is definitely different. Man, I mean, when you look at all of these teams, Erica, there's one that stands out to me the most, one that I am really excited. But what is one team that you would guarantee that you think is the strongest going in to this Unrivaled season?
Listen, this is tough. This is tough. Because I like these teams. I like the squads that we have here. Obviously, you can look at Rose and, they're trying to run it back. We love that. But I think what stands out to me is that Vinyl team coached by Teaspoon, Teresa Weatherspoon. And, they're going to bring in Erica Wheeler. They get Brittany Griner to come to that team. So they have a little, a little bit of height and depth there. C. Williams, I don't know. Vinyl was a squad last year that had a lot of moxie, as I like to say, a lot of sandpaper. And I think you bring in Erica Wheeler there, and it brings a little bit more of that. And I think season 2 under Teaspoon is going to be one to watch.
Well, I have a team that I absolutely love, but before I get into that, I just want to say they had a kind of I don't know if it was live last year, Erica, but they had like video of the coaches selecting the different teams. And I really love that. And I hope they bring that back in future seasons, because it was so interesting. I love just like the point of views of all the coaches and how players were picked, why they were, like everything was really cool to kind of get that behind the scenes thing that we don't normally get to see. Yeah. So I was like, but let me tell you something.
Oh,
a team that I am so looking forward to. Like the moment I saw this team, I was like, breeze. It's going to be breezy out here because Paige Bueckers is on this team. Okay. Rakia Jackson is on this team. Dominique Malanga. And remember, I don't know if you remember, but Rakia was talking about how she didn't want to get dunked on by Dominique. Now they're on the same team, which I love to see. Ari McDonald, Kate Martin, and Cameron
Martin. Yeah, you're right. Listen, you might be onto something there. That's just like a young squad that's ready to go. Like they gonna play, they gonna hoop, they gonna get after it. And
they're gonna be first team all social too, because all of those people are social forward.
First
I can already see the TikToks now.
The TikToks, just clip them all. I don't know. There's one half of the stud buds on vinyl. That's all I got to say about that. So it's going to be a good time. But yeah, I feel you. That's a young squad. I feel like they're going to literally run up and down the court. And I think at points last year, we do know that last year, unfortunately, a lot of players were dealing with injuries. So they did also make accommodations that I think were absolutely necessary, where they have a squad of folks that are not assigned to a team right now, but will be at the facilities, have access to the trainings, etc. I think that's huge because there was just so many injuries that folks were coming into in that inaugural season. And so the fitness level, you could tell teams that were fully ready, lungs were open for gameplay, and those that weren't because they were coming off an injury. So, but yeah, that's a good looking squad. I'm not gonna lie. And Noelle Quinn is one of the new head coaches. I love the coaches that we have. We have a lot of returners, but Rena Wakema coming in, that's huge. You talk about international growth. We saw what she was able to do, as a coach at the Olympics. And so I'm here for it. Guarantee you're going to want to tune in to Unrivaled. Unrivaled, Athletes Unlimited. Again, we just talked about Project B. Again, we talked about it. There's just so much innovation happening. And I don't know, like Unrivaled for me has a lot of really unique innovation points that come from the player development aspect of it, including even the choice to go 3-on-3, because when you practice sets and when you're trying to learn skills, usually you run them 3-on-3. So I love it.
I do too. And I think, and I'm just putting this on Emma's plate right now, and she's probably like, my plate is already too full. But I feel like we need to go out there and have a show from one of these Unrivaled weekends.
Period. Let's go.
Anyone out there at the Unrivaled, we
come on.
Let's go.
We need to talk right on boots on the ground. Let's go.
Yes, we absolutely do.
That's it.
So looking forward to everything that's going to happen with Unrivaled. And they're going to have all of this, so I love their social too. The social media is top tier and the way that they roll everything out. So as we get closer to the season, we're going to see some amazing things that way. So it just gets you all excited for the season because I don't know, they do it right. Unrivaled does it right. So looking forward to another season, and we going to be there. I'm claiming it. Speaking it into existence.
I love it. Miami in the winter. Don't tempt me with a good time.
Done and done. Done and done. Well, something else that is not done yet because we're in the quarterfinals, but this is the NWSL season and we have some updates, okay? Because it has been wild, absolutely wild. In less than 48 hours in the quarterfinals, there were 2 stoppage time equalizers, 3 extra time matches, 1 that progressed to a penalty shootout, and an upset of the #1 team, which of course was the Gotham FC over the KC Current game match, I should say, rather, that happened. Gotham going into that, many would say, was seen as an underdog, but Jaden Shaw said, absolutely not. I completely disagree. And post-game said, we're not an 8th place team. I'm sorry, but underdog my ass. Ooh. We are not an underdog. Excuse me for cursing, Mom. Ooh. Love me still. My bad. But that's what she said. I'm just reading her quote. So Shaw actually scored the game tying goal in the 68th minute and assisted on the game winner in the 121st minute. And so needless to say, the NWSL was just off the hook when it comes to the quarterfinals. There was some great soccer to watch. And at the end of the day, there are 4 teams left standing. The Washington Spirit is playing the Portland Thorns. Shout out to Portland. Ow. You already know who I'm picking. And that's going to be on Saturday, November 15th at 12 p.m. Eastern. And then the Orlando Pride, the reigning champs, versus Gotham FC on Sunday, November 16th at 3 p.m. Eastern. So lock in. There's so many things to talk about. It's almost like overwhelming, but what I'm looking forward to is just these teams battling out to see who's going to be the champion.
Yeah, and the storylines also. I mean, we talked about Jaden Shaw and the trade to Gotham FC. Was that going to be the right move? What did it mean for a young talent trying to cut their teeth in the league at the national level? But I'll tell you this: Shaw is in the semis and has already shown her value added in these playoffs for Gotham. So you love to see that. And then you have, of course, the Orlando Pride. Their whole mantra was something like, do you see us now? Last year, right? They felt like they were underrated, criminally underrated. Like no one was really talking about them. And then they go and win a championship. So, I mean, I think that we also talked about Kansas City several weeks ago, like a month or so ago, right? Because when you clinch so early, what do you do to stay hungry? and they ran into a Gotham team that, as Shaw said, like, we're not buying this narrative. Like, we are not a low seed, we are not an 8 seed, and then they stood on business. So that's a tough pill to swallow, but I think it goes back to, we were talking about parity or the lack thereof in the NCAA early in the season. Well, we're seeing it late in the season for the NWSL, and I'm here for it.
I'm here for it too. This is what sports is all about. Like,
I know that's right.
when the playoffs come, hey, it's 0-0, baby. Like, let's just go, So this is why we love to watch it. We also love to see that there's going to be another team in the NWSL, that Atlanta will be getting an NWSL team.
Ooh.
It's the 17th NWSL franchise. The team will be owned by Arthur Blank's A&B Sports and Entertainment, which also owns the NFL's Atlanta Falcons and MLS Atlanta United FC. They're going to begin play in 2028, and we love to see it. That's for sure. So looking forward to seeing the NWSL semifinals and finals. We'll be covering all of that, and we can't wait to see that team launch in Atlanta for sure. On the same soccer front, but obviously on a different level, on a sadder level, I would say, we just send our thoughts and prayers to the entire Washington team. Just 3 days after the passing of their senior goalkeeper, Mia Hamant, who battled a rare form of stage 4 kidney cancer. She actually was the 14th diagnosed case of this particular cancer. She was 21 years old, and after a battle with this cancer, she passed away. And 3 days after the Huskies, in her name, won the Big Ten tournament over Michigan State on penalty kicks. And it's just, obviously thoughts and prayers are with the family of Mia, and all the players, coaches, everybody with her. And it's something that you honestly hate to hear. But they certainly did right by her and in her memory by winning the tournament in the way that they did.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking. Cancer is quite the ride for obviously whomever is battling and has their own fight, but the family and extended family, teammates in this case. So, yes, that win over Michigan State, I'm sure, was a little bit of levity, right, in a very difficult time, and something I'm sure that this Huskies team will remember, being able to rally in their grief. But again, like you said, thinking of the Hamant family, and it's been great being here in Seattle and seeing the community really continue to honor her legacy and her memory, as the team again is just dealing with a really difficult situation.
Yeah, definitely difficult. She was diagnosed in April, and I just can't imagine what everyone has gone through. But like I said, our hearts, our thoughts, and our prayers go out to the team and just everybody, all of her loved ones, everybody who knew her. So, yeah, I mean, her memory will live on in every single soccer player that comes after her, because she was a great person, a great player, and she definitely impacted the team in amazing ways, as we saw. So just wanted to make sure that we honored her in this episode. And, we'll continue to honor her in every player, in every single episode that we have right here on We Need to Talk Now, presented by AT&T. So we will see you guys next week, as we always do. And tap in all the ways that you can, so that we can stay connected, so that we can continue to be connected as we talk about everything in women's sports right here on We Need to Talk Now,